I just had like the most embarrassing moment.
Why?
I accidentally phoned Melandre thinking she was you. And I was like, hey ho.
What did she say?
She's like, hi. And then it broke up. So it sort of sounded like you. And then there was
Mhm.
like this awkward silence. And I was like, are you ready? And she's like, yeah, shoot. And I was like, what? And then I looked at the name and I saw it wasn't you. I was like, oh no.
Did you record it?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
I deleted it though. I deleted
Oh,
it. I did record it, I deleted it.
I would have loved to have heard it. The awkwardness in
Oh.
all its glory.
No, no, no. I couldn't let that live out in the universe for too long. I was like, why are you like, you telling me that you're ready for this recording? And you're like, so out of it. I was kind of like, Jessica, what the hell's wrong with you? Anyway.
You crazy.
Anyway, hi guys, and welcome to Dead Curious. We are your sister hosts. I am Roxanne.
And I am Jessica.
Today we decided to do something quite special because it is quite an intense topic. So we thought let's rather just keep this episode to one story and see where that goes. So today we will be discussing Pinky Pinky.
The first time that I heard about Pinky Pinky was in art class in high school, um, because we were learning about an artist that had done a painting and some sculptures, um, to I think to bring awareness about Pinky Pinky and the whole story behind that.
Yeah,
Um,
same here.
but of course, it doesn't go that deep into what Pinky Pinky actually is. It kind of just touches on some of the societal issues that are associated with Pinky Pinky.
Mm.
So we only knew like a vague description of what Pinky Pinky actually was.
Yeah, Pinky Pinky is very much a South African story, tale, creature. I'll get into the details and you can decide. But yeah, if you are in South Africa, and particularly if you're a Black South African, the chances of you hearing about Pinky Pinky is pretty high. Not as popular amongst the white community in South Africa, but you'll understand why as I go into more detail as to the story, the tale of Pinky Pinky. So let's get into it. For those of you outside of South Africa, Pinky Pinky has been described as a featureless boogeyman, half human, half creature, or as a tokoloshe or tokoloshe. The most common description is that of a grotesque human-like thing with pink skin, pink hair, and red eyes, with half of its face appearing female and the other half distinctly male. One thing all sources seem to agree on is that it likes to live in public bathrooms, where it is said to stalk pre-pubescent girls who wear pink underwear. If a girl dares go into the bathroom while Pinky Pinky's on the prowl, it will follow her and call out to her in a beautiful melodic female voice. It will then tell her a story, and when the story is done, Pinky Pinky will demand payment for the story told. If the girl is unable to pay Pinky Pinky the price it asks, it will attack the girl, violently beating her and raping her. So, in a nutshell, that is the legend of Pinky Pinky. But taking into consideration South Africa's ever growing gender based violence stats and the underlying rape culture, it's it's hardly surprising that a creature like this would exist, especially in the minds of our children, and especially in young girls in the poorer Black communities. Many believe that the story of Pinky Pinky was birthed from civil unrest and violence from the apartheid era, where if a young Black girl were raped or victimized by a white man, the allegations were not taken seriously. So Perhaps on a social level, Pinky Pinky is simply the face of abusers and sexual predators. Pinky Pinky seems to be a creature that is birthed from a community where sexual violence and gender-based violence is rampant, and that's the sad truth about South Africa, is that it is a very common thing, and it is no surprise that something like Pinky Pinky would exist. I mean,
Mm,
maybe not even as like a real boogeyman, even if it's a folklore tale, it's actually very sad.
mm,
And that's why I wanted to dedicate a full episode to it, especially since at the moment there is the Black Lives Matter and the gender-based violence campaigns that have been going out. It is probably um, one of the best times to actually address this, maybe even in our podcast. Not that I want us to get political or anything, but yeah, these sort of things do happen, and as a society, it's high time that we address the issues.
mm,
As terrible as the legend of Pinky Pinky is, there is, of course, stories about it. So I found a story about Pinky Pinky by a woman named Tsapang Molakwana. And she actually wrote a short story on her encounter, and she put it up on live.funza.mobi, which is like the site where amateur authors can write short stories and share them and comment and stuff. So I'll put a link to her story in the description, but I thought it was a really nice place to share it here. Let's get into her story. I had never been so terrified in my life. Was I hallucinating? Was this the terrifying creature that targeted us girls who wore pink? It tormented us. I was in second grade when I first heard its name, Pinky Pinky. I had heard hearsays that it hid inside the school toilets. Those who had claimed to see it say half of its face is male and the other half is female. Some claim it's as dark as night. Others say it was pink with red eyes. We didn't know what to believe. The victims of Pinky Pinky always cried as they gave their testimonies. Hearing all of that sent chills down my spine. I dared not go into the toilets alone because I knew creepy thing would have its way with me. Rather your bladders suffer and the rivers flow with urine than go to the toilet to be victimized by Pinky Pinky. I asked my granny what Pinky Pinky really was. Is it a beautiful girl who was a magician, or a big human doll? My granny said, my lovely granddaughter, Pinky Pinky is a tokoloshe. I was so scared. I knew exactly what a tokoloshe was. An evil sprite used in witchcraft. My heart raced. I wish I could erase that from my mind, everything that she had just told me. There was no way I would be able to sleep that night. But the story of Pinky Pinky does not end there. My cousin Puseletso was 1 year older than me, and we were like twins. We did everything together. We called ourselves Team Double Trouble. One night we were wearing similar pajamas. The only difference was that mine was pink and hers was blue. She knew a lot more about Pinky Pinky than I did, and honestly I was curious. I just wanted to see the thing with my own eyes. And you know what they say about curiosity. So we went to the toilet outside to summon the diabolical spirit. Pinky, Pinky, come to me, we whispered. Pinky, Pinky, come to me. We recited her name what felt like 1,000 times, but nothing happened. Seeing as it was a school night, we went to bed. Suddenly I woke up. The lights had gone off while we were sleeping. But in the dark I could make out a figure. It was short. A dwarf? It wasn't light enough for me to see its face, but its eyes were glowing red. I felt like screaming, but nothing came out. I tried to move, but it was as if I was paralyzed. I felt a heavy weight on my chest and I couldn't breathe. I fought with all my might to call for help, but I could only manage a couple of slurred words. It was strangling me. This was no human being. Finally, I screamed. Like a banshee calling the name of Jesus Christ, I was finally free. My cries woke my grandmother and she came to my room to see what was wrong. I told her all about the supernatural experience I'd just had. She said that it was a tokoloshe and that somebody must have sent it, and that I was probably being targeted for my intelligence by someone who was jealous. She then burned sage to exorcise the diabolical spirit, and I was able to go back to sleep. Nothing has ever bothered me ever again.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't want to say that she was lucky that she was strangled, but she's lucky that like nothing else happened because it's known to be a creature that rapes young children.
Reading this story, I thought it was interesting. For me personally, I would categorize this actually as a story on the tokoloshe, not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
about Pinky Pinky, but I included it in this story. First of all, I I get triggered by rape stories, so I didn't really want to go into detail and into anything with descriptions of rape and violence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not to say that I'm avoiding those sort of stories, but I wanted to introduce the concept of Pinky Pinky, and I felt that her story very well explained um, the understanding and the belief and how Pinky Pinky is comes about in South African
Mm-hmm.
culture. You know, the young children are the ones who discuss it amongst each other, and that is actually a big reason why a lot of girls travel in groups to the bathroom
Mm-hmm.
for protection, for safety. And maybe Tales of Pinky Pinky has actually spurred that, but in all honesty, in South Africa, you do go to the toilets in a group because that is where that is where children very often get victimized in
Mm.
public places or public bathrooms where there's
It's a
privacy.
space, yeah, it's a space where you're alone and you're often in a vulnerable situation.
Exactly. So I think it was this was a very good example of that. And also, I did want to introduce tokoloshe because that
Mm-hmm.
is definitely something we'll need to do an episode on one day. Tokoloshe being like she said in her story, a sprite used in witchcraft. The tokoloshe is like a dwarf, a hairy dwarf-like fairy thing that lives usually in marshy areas.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole belief system around the tokoloshe or the tokoloshe. We are in the Eastern Cape, so I believe the way we know tokoloshe is from Xhosa culture. I
Mm-hmm.
think isiZulu is tokoloshi, if I'm not mistaken. I stand under correction. But yeah, so it sounds like this was more of a tokoloshe story personally. But it's not
Mm-hmm.
to say that those two things are different. Who knows if it's not maybe just the same creature experienced in a different way. We don't know. The tokoloshe is considered to be an incredibly evil spirit or being. So who knows? Maybe Pinky Pinky is in fact a tokoloshe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Pinky Pinky is all these things.
For me, it sounded a lot like those really intense sleep paralysis dreams that people have, because very often they say like they wake up, but they can't move their body and they can't speak or make any sort of sound. And then
Mm,
whatever creature that they are seeing, which again does usually have red glowing eyes, like they mention it coming slowly towards them, and they try to scream and call out, but nothing happens.
yeah,
And very often it gets close enough to like touch them or choke them or scratch them. And only at that point is the person able to make some sort of sound and break out of the paralysis.
yeah.
So it's definitely some sort of a, I don't know what to classify as the tokoloshe as, but it's definitely what she experienced was some kind of a demonic thing. But
It could be.
I mean, the tokoloshe, all of the stuff that it supposedly does and its whole purpose, I would say it is a demon of some kind.
Yeah, from what I've heard, like from tokoloshe stories, it can even like bite and poison people. The
Mm-hmm.
most common one is that it kills you in your sleep.
Mm.
You get carried, or it steals and kidnaps children and carries them off into the bush. So there are terrible stories with very interesting theories to explain them, with like Pinky Pinky being like a social explanation behind Pinky
Mm.
Pinky. The same can actually be said for the tokoloshe, and that's why I want to do another episode similar to this, but just on the tokoloshe. And oh my
Mm-hmm.
word, there are tons of stories. Like tokoloshe is like not everybody's heard of Pinky Pinky, but everybody in South Africa knows of the tokoloshe, like
Yeah.
everybody. And looking into Pinky Pinky, I actually found some pretty cool stories and information on the tokoloshe. But before we just disregard Pinky Pinky as maybe just being a cautionary tale to not go to the bathrooms alone, I did find in in many sources actually where there are schools that have closed down in fear of Pinky Pinky, or that claim that there have been Pinky Pinky attacks, and for the safety of the students actually closed down
Mm.
for not closed down permanently, but I mean, so Pinky Pinky is very strongly believed here in South Africa, and whether you believe in Pinky Pinky or not, something serious enough did happen that schools had to close down and to protect their children. So, you know, you can't deny evidence like that. I mean, a school's not just going to close down.
Yeah, that's true.
Like something must have happened. I did, I can't remember where I saw the source because I actually read up on it a couple weeks ago. This guy was talking about how back in the day, with apartheid, with black people being so oppressed that um yes, they weren't even seen as second citizens. They were almost treated like cattle, or you know what I
Mm.
mean, like completely dehumanized. So sexual abuse, white on black, was quite prevalent, and he believed that perhaps Pinky Pinky was just a way for young girls to describe what had happened to them so that they could be taken seriously, because if they claimed that a white man abused them, so that they would be in more trouble, and maybe their young traumatized minds maybe just saw it as a grotesque monster, and
Mm.
you know, it was a his argument was that it was a way for a traumatized mind to make sense and explain what was happening to them in a society that was absolutely not willing to hear it, basically. I
Mm.
wish I could find it again because I did want to put it in this episode, but I couldn't find it. But that, in a nutshell, is what this gentleman's argument was on.
Mm. Um,
Mm,
that that does make a lot of sense for me, as well, because I can't remember if you mentioned this or not, but a lot of the descriptions of Pinky Pinky is that, okay, you said it's like a half man, half woman, but the
yes.
people often refer to Pinky Pinky as being like a middle-aged person, which is
Mm,
usually, when these things happen, when children get taken and raped or whatever, it would most likely be by a middle-aged white man.
mm,
So it makes sense that, especially because they are prepubescent children, they don't really know, or they don't understand how these things work. So their minds would have probably just come up with something that's easy for them to understand. Because,
especially for the much
what,
younger children.
yeah,
Like imagine
children,
toddlers. If you can barely speak, how are you going to explain something as complex as sexual abuse?
yeah. I mean, at that age, kids don't really know what sex is, even.
Exactly.
Um, and what kids talk about, or the games that they play, they're pirates, and there's the good guy and the bad guy, and there's monsters, and things like that. So they would
Mm,
try to rationalize it in a way that their brains can understand, which would be a monster.
Exactly.
Um,
Shame.
there was something else that I had read because I had done research on this weeks ago as well. And there was also something else which I found quite interesting, which I'd never seen before, was that I can't remember which article it was because I'm apparently not smart enough to save the information I found. Um, but someone mentioned that there's a belief that it has some connection to albinism in the Black community as well.
Sorry, I'm not sure what that is.
Albinism?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Are you serious?
Albinism?
Albino?
Oh, I'm being so blonde. Yes, sorry. I don't know why that the word sounded so foreign to me.
I couldn't tell if you were being serious or not because I don't know, sometimes your tone is very the
I
same
know.
when you're being
I've
serious and when you're being sarcastic.
Why? No, I don't know, like in my head I thought you were saying something like Elvinism, like a belief of elves or something.
No.
Okay, no.
Albinism.
Oh, my
No,
word. Yes, albinism. You're referring to people who have
a lack of pigmentation. There's a
yeah.
lack of pigmentation in the skin. So their skin appears to be a pink color, basically. So I can't really remember the exact words, but I think it basically came from the fact that usually the skin is either very pale, like white, a whitish color, or it can be quite pink. And I think it came from how they were excluded from society,
Mm,
but
outcast.
outcast, yeah. They were sort of outcast because of the way that they looked. Um, but personally, I feel like it's more likely that it stemmed from, being sexually abused by an older person. Um,
Yeah.
like besides, I think for me, when I read that, it was interesting because I'd never heard that before. I'd never heard
Yeah.
of that being like a reason for Pinky Pinky to exist. But I feel like it doesn't make enough sense to me. Like the only thing that I can sort of connect with Pinky Pinky would be the color of the person's skin.
Mm,
But yeah, for me, it doesn't make as much sense.
mm. Although a white man with cholesterol issues does take on, and fair skin takes on a pinkish tone,
That is true.
just FYI. I'm obviously referring to the cultural argument of the pinky pinky debate. But if we go back to the albino thing, I do know that there is a large, to this day, there's a large discrimination against people with albinism. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Albinism?
albinism.
There are superstitious beliefs around them being having magical properties.
Mm,
I know for a fact that a lot of albino children are either abandoned or kidnapped.
mm,
And the reason they are kidnapped is for black market organ trading for mooties.
mm.
Because I've heard many stories that where people believe that people with albinism have a magical property to them. So there is a very strong belief um, in South Africa, I think, about that. So, but I don't know how that links to Pinky Pinky.
Um, for me, I think the only way that it could make sense that this could be Pinky Pinky, considering the fact that Pinky Pinky is known for sexual violence, is
Hmm.
that you know how some people get this mentality that when they are frustrated by being outcast and discriminated
Mm,
against, is that they have
mm,
this thing where they want to retaliate.
mm,
But I still don't feel like that's a strong enough argument for that to be the origin of Pinky Pinky.
mm. Yeah, that would make sense. And in a lot of non-white cultures, white people are seen as devils.
Mm,
Like just the way that white culture has historically victimized like so many other cultures. Because I mean the things that happened um, were were completely inhumane. They were completely evil. Like how can you treat another human being like that? It's completely understandable that they would be seen as devils. So
mm.
maybe it's that. I feel like it's maybe just the result of something bigger. Maybe racial tension from apartheid and all the years of slavery and just, white people being dicks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. 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 That about brings it. I think that's about it for Pinky Pinky.
Yeah. Um, I think it's right that we focus only on Pinky Pinky today because it's such
It's
a
a tough issue.
it is, and I feel like if we had another story after it or before it, I feel like it would have just taken away some of the importance of
I
speaking
feel
about
like
these issues.
absolutely. Like I feel like Pinky Pinky brings up a lot of issues that South Africa has been facing for a long time, and globally there's a lot of social awareness and stuff happening around these issues. So yeah, I thought we just had to dignify it. We had to tell the story of Pinky Pinky because there's no way we can have a season on South Africa and not speak on Pinky Pinky. But it needed its spot in the spotlight.
It's Spot in the Spotlight.
We
That's a
needed to
good one.
we needed to highlight these issues.
Yeah.
The pink highlighter. Ah, dad joke.
Yeah,
Disappointed in myself now.
it's
I'm
okay.
gonna just end this before I say anything else I regret.
All right.
But anyway, as I come to the end of this, I just wanted to end it off and be like, I know that the topics we covered here are very tough, and I hope that we did it in a dignified way. It's obviously not our intention to discriminate against anyone, white or black or anything in between. We just wanted to tell the story of Pinky Pinky and shed some light on the issues that we face as South Africans.
Mm.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. As always, if you have a story that you would like to share with us, could be Pinky Pinky, could be anything, please send it to us. You can send us a message via our website or by email. All of those details are on our website, and a link to our website is in the description. And don't forget about the competition we are running on our Instagram page. You can find us at deadcuriouspod. The link to our Instagram is also on our website. Just go to the website.
Just go to the website. It's so
Just
much easier to find everything you need to know.
everything you need is on the website. So give us a
And
like, give us a share, tell your friends, tell a friend. Yeah, this week, tell one friend about us. It's
and
fantastic.
please support us on Patreon so you can get some very, very funny bonus content.
Bonus content, y'all.
Well, hopefully it's funny.
Hopefully it's fun. We think we're funny. That's,
That's
I
all
think,
that matters.
that's all that matters. And as always,
Please, please don't get haunted
or anything else,
or anything else.
yeah, go to the bathroom in groups. Play safe,
Play safe,
stay safe,
stay safe, and don't
stay
get
safe,
haunted.
wear protection, don't get haunted. Bye.
Bye.
You're gonna have to edit so much of that out.
I know.
And. Okay, so how do they associate Pinky Pinky with albinoism? Albino? Oh my! I'm stepping away from this conversation because I know that Jax is gonna tease me on it. I told her all about their supernatural. Let me try that again. I fought. Can you hear Bart growling in the background?
No.
Okay. Heart rate. So, Jessica, you're very quiet.
I'm listening
Do you have
intently.
nothing to add?
Well,
You're
I
a
don't
social worker. Talk about social.
talk about social.
Talk about social.
If I talk about social, then I'm gonna go off on like an hour-long thing.
That's
And
very attractive, sniffing in the mic.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Like I could hear it go back into your face.
Back into my face. Wow.
Uh-huh. No, it's gross. It's in both my ears.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's like you mentioned earlier. Pinky Pinky is it was a social. Oh, hi. Yeah, doing our episode. That's Jax. Jax is hi.
Hi, Jax.
Say hi to our listeners, Jax. Just they can't hear you. He says he has stage fright like Tina. The cat jumped on my boob this morning, so I couldn't sleep in. It really hurt.
Ugh.
Like
Yeah.
all 4 paws right on the boob. Bam.
Yoda got miffed with me last night because I stroked him gently, and
How dare you?